Sometimes I break even. Sometimes I lose money. So, for me, the process is learning through that mistake or that experience and figuring out what to buy next.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to A Reseller's Journey. Here is your host, eBay Joey.
Welcome to the show. I am your host, eBay Joey. Today's guest I met in Las Vegas at the Resellers Basketball Tournament. We are in a Resellers Fantasy Football League together, and he is undefeated. He was a guest speaker at eBay Open 2019. He has over 21,600 followers on Instagram. He has been featured as a special guest on Hustler Hacks show. He is a veteran in the reselling game. He goes by the name The Hustle Bee, but the wifey calls him Kenny. Welcome and thank you for being on the show.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. I love doing podcasts and pretty much sharing the story and how we do things recently.
That's right, man. And that's the name of the podcast, A Reseller's Journey. So the people want to know your journey. So how did you come up with your name?
Man, I think I was in middle school or something. My teacher would always tell me like, man, you're like a bee because you can't keep still. Because I always be chair hopping and I always be all over the place. I was just a very energetic child, so I was like, man, that's a hustle bee. That sounds like a cool name. So I really didn't even thought about it a lot because when I created this Instagram, I pretty much just created this just to follow other people and pretty much document my journey. So that's what my Instagram is really about, trying to document my milestones and things that I've done and just unique things that we find.
No, awesome, man. I think that's pretty cool how you incorporated a childhood nickname and then now with your career, you have them both meshed together, which is really cool. So where are you located, Hustle B?
So I'm in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Okay. How long have you been out there for?
Well, I moved here from the Philippines, so ever since I moved here, so almost 6 years now.
Okay. Yeah, how you liking it in Ohio?
I like it. I mean, I really like, a lot of people say they don't like it here because of the winter. I mean, I love the 4 seasons just because growing up, it's always been, like in the Philippines, it's kind of like Hawaii, it's like sunny and rain. We don't get any other seasons, but I love fall, I love winter. I mean, I think I like it because every 3 months, things changes. So I think I love that. I love the fact of weather.
Yeah, I'm the same way, man. I live in California, and right now I'm located in Central California, but I'm from Los Angeles, and it's the weather for me, man. I'm not really crazy about four season, but I think it's important wherever you work or whatever journey you're traveling that the weather, the area, the climate, it's important to take that into consideration. Um, in your area in Ohio with reselling, do you have a lot of Ross, Marshalls, and Burlington, Nike outlets?
So typically, I have almost like less than half of what a major city has. Um,
Wow.
we actually don't have a Ross in Ohio. I think we just opened one, something like that,
Okay.
and it's like an hour away from me. So the closest Ross before that was 2 hours away in Indianapolis, and there's a few in Louisville, Kentucky. So as far as stores, I think Cincinnati's a small market city. Um, like we've me and Glenn, the Hustler Hacks, go to like major cities, and we could source to like 60 to 80 stores. I'm sure it's like that in California too. We've been through California too. There's a lot of stores, but I say in my area probably 20 to 30 stores that I can source.
Okay. And when you're sourcing these stores, is it an everyday thing, every other day, or what's your schedule look like when it comes to sourcing?
I usually source so for like Nike outlets, I can get to like four Nike outlets within a day. Uh I usually go over there, Friday, Saturdays. And then the other like Marshall, Burlington, I usually have like two routes. And then my route will be going up north one day and then the next day I go south. Then the next day I go north again to see if there's any restock. So I usually, yeah, I pretty much source every day.
Okay, cool, man. No days off for the hustle bee. I like it. Now, with no days off, are you doing this part time or full time?
So I am doing it full time. I'm doing it full time with my wife. So it's my wife handles a lot of the inventory and the listing and stuff like that. So so we kind of like divided up the business.
Okay, cool, man. That's important, man. My wife helps me as well whenever she can because I got one toddler and then I got a
Uh,
newborn. So sometimes I'll call her up and say, "Hey, baby, I need you to package this one item," and then I can run to the post office because
yeah,
I like to do one day handling is
yeah.
my goal. With you doing this full time, what made you want to do this full time?
Well, I think a lot for me was I've always owned a business since I was 16 years old. And when I moved here in the U.S., it was the first time that I worked in a corporate job, and I actually loved it. I loved the climb, and it was only until that I couldn't see myself moving further in the company. So I was like, if there's no point of me moving up here and nothing's really up top to grab, I was like, and then I got just the fact of like having to be there and then just I just didn't like the fact that they kind of just crunch you down in numbers sometimes. You're just a number, right? Like they don't treat you like a real human. Uh, so so the biggest thing for me was I was really looking up to open up a business, and then I tried different ventures, and then I then realized that, man, wouldn't this be like the best business ever? So that's when I truly realized, like, man, I love shoes, I love shopping. Me and my wife love shopping both, and I was like, and then like just finding the good deal, the thrill of the hunt, and seeing the potential of what this business could go forward. So that's when I decided, like, that's it. I'm trying to dedicate the next 5 years of my life for this and see how it goes.
So when you talk about that transition of that 5 years from the corporate world, um, how long have you been doing it now?
So we're on our third year now. We started in March 2017.
Earlier, you talked about that you've always been a business owner, an entrepreneur. Now, is that something that your family is in the Philippines that kind of made you want to become an entrepreneur? Or is that just something that, hey, this is just who I am?
Well, a lot of it too. Growing up, well, we really didn't have a lot. So I really just didn't want to depend from my parents. So in the early age, I was always like looking at, uh, you know, things to make money on, and so that's kind of like develop that part. And also a big part of me is like I just really want to help other people, and when helping people, like it it takes money. So like I want to be rich, but I want to be rich to be able to give.
Yeah, man, I think that's important. Money does definitely give you options, and I've been broke and I've been, on my last dollar living paycheck to paycheck, man, and you really don't have that many options, and it changes your mindset. But I do like the fact that you said, your parents, you didn't want to depend on your parents, and I'm the same way where, my mom and dad could only provide so much, and so I said, you know what? I got to change this. And that's when I really started hustling, just like you, 16, 17 years old and selling various items. So with your eBay store, is that the main platform that you sell on?
Yeah, mainly eBay is still my focus. I focused on eBay for 2 years. I didn't try any other platforms for 2 years. So, until I really got comfortable with it. So right now I sell on eBay, Poshmark, Goats, and StockX.
Okay, with all those that you listed, which one is your favorite and why?
I think eBay still, just because of the amount of traffic that we can get through eBay, just because it's a global marketplace. Um, so that's kind of my favorite, and a lot of it too is like, I like the analytics behind it. I like doing the research for it. Other platforms, like the sneaker platforms, sometimes they're just too easy. And when it's too easy, that's when, price tanking happens.
Yeah, man, price tanking is a big deal right now, and that's one of the reasons why I created this podcast, was to shed light on people that are tanking the price and how it messes up everybody within the community, because people like you that are doing this full time, it's important that you get that max dollar, because that's what you depend on. But someone that's like, oh, I'll just go to the store and buy this for 25 and flip it for 50, but in reality you can probably get 125.
Hmm.
You leave a lot of money on the table,
Right.
which is not it's not a good thing. But can you tell the audience how much your eBay store does a month?
So I'm around 20,000. Plus minus, it just depends on the season. Previously I've hit 30,000 in 1 month, and as low as 13,000 in a month. So that's where my range is at.
Okay, and is all of those items that you're selling on eBay sneakers only?
No, it's a mix. So I'd say when people ask me what do you sell, I say pretty much anything that you see at a Nike factory store.
Okay.
So from basketball jerseys, soccer jerseys, soccer balls, the typical, retail arbitrage stuff. For us, hashtag Ross Fine, Burlington Finds. Yeah, those are the ones that I sell.
Awesome, man. No, that's exciting. In California, I just don't have the opportunity to find those items, but it's good that you're able to find them, and like you said earlier, that you travel and you have a route. So, with that being said, all of what your store is doing, do you have other eBay stores, or is it just this main one?
Yeah, I only have one eBay store, and then everything within my eBay store is just cross-listed in other platforms.
Okay. And did you have a business model when you first started, and it might have changed as you progressed into full time into this, 20, 30,000 a month?
Yeah, I mean, especially from the start because I really didn't have a lot. I only started with $500 of some money that I made selling my sneaker collection. So I'm still trying to slowly build it back up. But my goal was buy for 20, sell for 60. That was my
Okay.
business model at first. That was just my focus, and I just stuck to it. So my average sale price around was $60, and then I just tried to increase it. So now, yeah, it has changed, just because when I did that, I went to a point that I had over 2,000 items, and I live on a two-bedroom apartment. So where I'm at right now, this is like our dining area. I converted to an office space. So so I had to restructure a little bit just because I was dealing too much inventory, and when you're dealing with that, a lot of shipping, a lot of listing. So it took a lot of our time. So what I did is I just tried to find more items that would be higher, selling price. So I changed it to buy for 40, sell for 100.
Okay.
So
Yeah. That's pretty good, because there's $60 in there. You figure with fees, shipping,
yeah,
and it seems that in Ohio you're almost centralized in the United States. So is your shipping costs pretty low or affordable?
I'd say so. My average per shoe is $9 total. So when I do my calculation in my head, I always just tag $10 of shipping. So that's where I'm at.
Oh, that's cool, man. You're very fortunate, because in California, I got Zone 8. I got the East Coast, and it seems like almost every sale I'm shipping to the furthest point on the map, and it's costing
Well,
someone like me 10 or 15 bucks.
not really, because if you think about it, the major cities are far from me. If you look at it, the biggest states or the biggest where eBay sells their stuff the most is California, Texas, and Florida.
Okay.
So that's probably where you're getting those high rates are the Florida people because it's the
Definitely,
opposite.
man. And it's also Texas, where it's almost the east point of Texas, but it's weird, man. I'll talk to other resellers that are on the East Coast, and they're like, I ship everything to California, and then for me, I was like, I'm shipping everything to across the United States.
I think it's just a matter of like you notice it more because when you're paying $7, you don't notice it. But when
Right.
you're paying 10, 15, like, oh, now you notice it, and then you always see. I think it's just that. But like I said, like it averages out. Like I advise people like add all your shipping costs and divide it by the number of items you've sold. Especially if they're shoes, they're gonna be about $8 to $9.
Yeah. Can you tell the audience some of the features that you like about eBay that other platforms don't have, as far as like the best offer?
Um, yeah, best offer. I mean, the most that I like is especially their traffic. That if you have an eBay store, you'll have it under performance, and when you click under performance, you have impressions or traffic. So if you click under those, it will tell you how many people have visited your store. So within the last month. So for me, that actually gives me an idea of, are the stuff in my store attractive for people to click on it and stuff like that. So those are very important for me. I focus on selling metrics. What are the listings that gets visited the most? What are the listings that has converted the most? So those are the stuff that are analytics that eBay provides for us. If you have an eBay store that other platforms don't have.
Yeah, man. For someone like me, I got an eBay store, and it's helped out a lot because you can see, like you said, the impressions. How long is it taking? The traffic, is it coming from a search engine where maybe those people that shop on Amazon and they search a UPC or something like that, and they ended up on your page? So it gives you really good insight, and they have different packages, which I feel, if you're selling on eBay and you have over 100 items, I would say at least start off at the entry level store,
Mhm.
and then
Yeah.
as you progress, just kind of increase. So is an impression an actual click, or is it when you scroll down and someone sees your
Yeah,
item?
impression is someone sees your item. So when somebody clicks it, that counts as a click-through rate.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's your click-through rate?
My click-through is 1.7%.
Okay, that's very good. So would you say what is the math come out to? Every 100 items or every 100 clicks?
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Every 100, 1.7 people click on it. So
okay.
yeah. So I'd say point before I've studied a lot of stores. Point 0.5 click-through rate and point 0.5 conversion rate is usually the average. So the more hype stuff, the better your stuff. The more uh, likable your stuff. If it's, we always talk about it. If they're fire, people are gonna click through it and visit it more, and eventually convert into a sale.
Yeah, with your eBay store, do you ever run any promotions, whether it be like the holidays or maybe there's some old inventory that the Hustle Bee wants to get rid of?
Yeah, 100%. Me and my wife try to evaluate our stores every 2 weeks and see what's moving, what's getting a lot of hits, what's not getting any visits. So those are the times that I I we do run a sale, but we really don't have a strategy behind it. What I usually do is I just mark them down.
Okay. Now, I take the same approach. When I first buy an item, I try to list it at the maximum that I can get the
Hmm.
most profit in
Right, right,
return.
right.
Now, depending on if I get views or watchers, that kind of dictates the price for me, Hustle B. Would you say you have the same approach?
Well, my approach really is I really get to know the item. Now let's talk sneakers. If it's Air Max 97, if
Mm.
it's Vapor Max, definitely those are shoes that holds it value. So those are stuff that I'm willing to sit on it. If they're like high-end soccer cleats that I paid 25 for it, I'm gonna want 120, 140 for it. I know people say sell it quick for 80. That's not me. Like I am. So what's that word? What's that saying that they say? Are you a fast nickel or slow dime? Right? I
I
am
never
a
heard that before.
Yeah. So that's what they say, right? Make the fast money or fast nickel or slow dime. I am very slow quarter. I'm gonna get a lot of money for mine. I just posted on my Instagram today. People were selling this Nike Mercurial Superfly soccer cleats. They were selling them off for like 100, 110. I just sold one today
Uh-huh.
for 170. I'm like, that's fine. You
Nice,
can get
man.
you can get your money sooner. But for me, like how I consider my inventory, I consider them as investments. And if you make the right investment, it will definitely pay off. So that's kind of like my pricing strategy. I evaluate that, man, is this a good item to hold on? And if it's not, I'm okay. Sometimes I make mistakes, like, yeah, I thought this was a good inventory, but now it's not. I'm gonna let it go. Sometimes I break even. Sometimes I lose money. So, for me, the process is learning through that mistake or that experience and figuring out what to buy next.
Yeah, you talked about your inventory as an investment.
Mm.
Now, with that said, how do you feel about returning some items that you bought that you just felt the investment wasn't there?
For me, yeah, before when I started, I think in the first 3 to 6 months, I've returned stuff. But now, like maybe after my first year, one is I've gained a lot more experience. Two is like they know me already. I'm trying to build a good relationship with the managers, with the employee, so they know me. So I really don't want to break their trust by buying a lot of stuff and returning stuff. And I tell people like the reason a lot of people say like just return it on other stores. It's like yeah, it happens, but when I talk about full time hustle, every store knows me. What
Yeah.
I'd say I challenge everybody that when every store employee, all the stores around you knows you, that's when I can tell that you're really hustling. Because if they don't know you, that means you're not there often enough.
Yeah, man. I'm one of those people. I just started reselling on various platforms this year in January. And man, talk about mistakes, not doing your research. I just impulse buy, and I come home and wife's like, "Why are you bringing all this stuff?" And then I do the research and I end up taking it back to the store. I'm so embarrassed. I send her to the store and return. But what I'm trying to do now, Hustle B, is be smarter. It's like just because I walk into a store doesn't mean I need to buy something. I
Yeah,
think if you source the right way, like you said, you're patient, you're looking, you're doing your research, it's gonna work out for you. And
right.
so now I'm starting to kind of take that philosophy.
Yeah,
But
I mean, I tell everybody never buy an item without doing a research. Even me at this point, everybody that sees me out in the store, they always see me researching. That's when they catch me, like, hey, Hustle B, they catch me researching. Because for me, that's doing the work up front. I mean, if you think about it, right? You look at your previous experience. The moment you try to make a mistake buying things or you didn't do the research, that's actually extra work to return it.
it is. It
You
is.
know?
It's extra work. It's extra gas.
Right.
Your time. And I think
Yeah.
whether you're part time or full time, it's
Mm,
important that you value your time. And
100%.
you can't just be like, I'm working for free or I'm hustling for
Right.
free. But your time has value, whether it's with your family,
Right.
whether it's with
Yeah.
with anything.
Right.
So yeah, definitely. I think that's important to people that are out there, especially someone that's trying to start out or is starting already. Just be smart. Don't impulse buy. Work within your means. Now, Hustle B, you talked about that you started with $500, but now you have 2,000 items in your eBay store.
No,
Talk
I
about,
actually, well,
yeah.
I had 2,000 items, but
Oh,
I've
you had. Okay.
downsized it. Now I only have, let me give you the live number. I have 1,003 items.
Can you talk about how you were able to accomplish that?
I think a lot of it is one is when I was building my inventory. I definitely kind of like uh was a lot more patient. I didn't sell my items quick and cheap because the moment you do that, you're actually adding more uh hours because you have to replenish that. So for me it was the combination of being patient and buying the right items. And once I built it right, so my first month I did 2,000, and in the second month I pretty much reinvested everything. So when I was starting, I was hustling as an Uber driver to pay for my bills. So I guess one of my advice is like try to not use up the profits for personal, but reuse it for uh, reinvesting in more inventory.
Yeah, that's key, man. I think you have to be smart with the finances because in the reselling game, you have to be smart at everything you do, what platform you're using, where you're going to sell, where you're going to cross list, your inventory management, how you inventory the items. Now, when I met you in Vegas and after our basketball game, we went to go eat, and then afterwards we were talking, and one thing that really impressed me that I didn't know about you, but you talked about how you have an LLC. So
Yeah.
with your journey, you went from working the corporate world, then you started the hustle on the side, then
Right.
you went full time, and then now you have the LLC. Tell the audience and myself how that came to play.
So when I saw the potential, I always think about how I'm gonna grow this and how other people have done this, right? And uh, especially in where I'm at in Ohio, LLC, wasn't really that hard to get. I was able to apply online even in my state. Um, the biggest thing there is separating your personal income to the business. So I always look at the bigger picture. When I wanna make more money, I need to make it more legit, right? That's what we
Mhm.
just call it. Um, and a lot of it too, when you have it, you can it's a separate entity from who you are. That's how LLC was really kind of like one of my main goals to apply it right away. And then you could just be recognized, more because now I deal with, different suppliers, and then they see that I operate under LLC. So it's just more, a lot more formal.
Yeah, with the LLC, did you ever think about maybe the sole proprietor option?
Yeah, I thought about it too. But but LLC was just the next step, and for me, sole proprietor is you can operate it under your own and just declare it under your own income. But for me, was LLC just get extra layer of protection as far as liability. So when things go wrong, it's not really your personal finances because an LLC is its own entity.
Yeah, man. When I lived in LA, I had a clothing line, and I did sole proprietor. But as I kind of did some more research about a business, I was held liable if
Right.
one of my goods, for whatever
Yeah.
reasons, I sold T-shirts. I got this rash, and now I got to pay for
Right.
this
Right.
medical
Right.
bills. They're gonna come
Yeah.
after after all my assets. So I
Uh-huh.
think that's smart, and especially for people that are tuning in, you have to weigh out the options. Your state,
Mhm.
I know Vegas has really good LLC
Right.
benefits and sometimes the pricing, but it's definitely important to do your research. So, do you have a seller's permit or a federal tax ID number?
Yes, so I have a tax ID number that comes with the LLC. So that's you can get that. Um, I believe they send it to you as well. So for example, what helped me a lot is I was able to use my federal what do you call that? It's your identification EIN is what they call it,
Yeah.
identification number. I was able to use it with my PayPal Capital loan.
Yeah, that's definitely a big step. Now, with the LLC, do you have to have board meetings or kind of
No,
document the
because
time of
because
hours?
I'm no because I'm a single member LLC, so it does almost operate like a sole proprietor.
Okay. Do you ever think about leveraging the LLC where now you're employing people?
I'm thinking about that, but my goal is not unless I make over 30,000 a month. You know, because not then you're gonna have to take less money because you gotta pay more people, right, or more money out. So
Oh
that's
yeah.
the overhead that you have to consider.
Yeah, I mean, I think people that don't really have a background in business, but there's workman's comp depending on,
Right.
the facility, what you have. You got to now pay people with checks. Are you going to offer direct deposit?
Right. Right.
Depending the state that you're in, there's so many different fees. So I think people really got to consider, like, do your homework. Do I want to employ people? And it's a big responsibility. I'm a salesman and I deal with entrepreneurs that have employees, and
Right.
sometimes it's a blessing and sometimes it's a headache.
Oh yeah,
So,
it is. It is. I mean, at one point I have 11 people in my payroll when I had a car shop in the Philippines,
oh
and
wow.
it was everything's your responsibility. Their daughter gets sick, they don't come in, it's your responsibility. Something happens, they don't feel like working, it falls on you at the end of the day. So it's just the more heads, the more headache. That's what I tell people.
Yeah, man, definitely. Biggie Small says the more money, the more problems, and sometimes that's true. Little
Right.
hip hop reference. With your seller's permit, do you ever go to? I mean, when you do go to the sourcing and you're buying stuff, do you ever take your permit and say, "Hey, I'm not going to pay taxes on these goods
Um,
here"?
I, so far I haven't done that just because as far as collecting sales taxes, it's been kind of like in up in the air, right? eBay just started collecting taxes, sales taxes. So, um, technically, when you exempt yourself from paying taxes, when you sell that, you are liable of collecting the taxes and reporting that to the government. So, um, kind of like the safe blanket for me is if I pay all the taxes up front, you know, push comes to shove, I can always show that hey, this item has been paid for, up front. So it's not technically the right way to do it, but since e-commerce is still evolving and they're just trying to pass all these laws, uh, and thankfully, almost all the platforms are going to be able to collect all the sales taxes and report it in behalf of us. So that's definitely just kind of like a headache that we don't have to worry about because, man, if we had to do it ourselves, it'd be a headache because now you got to report to each state or whatnot. And that's just more added work, especially for people that, don't have any accounting background. That's definitely going to be hard.
Yeah, man, I took some accounting classes in college, and
Huh?
we did everything by hand, and
Right.
the general ledger. And
Yeah,
since you
dude,
bring
I've
up
done that too.
it's cool, man. I do my personal finances like that. So bookkeeping, are you doing it through Excel? Or are you using QuickBooks? What's your
So
your choice?
I do QuickBooks. So and then I just link my PayPal business card for it. So everything that my this PayPal, uh, all my expenses are done through PayPal as far as business expense. So at the end of the year, I pretty much just sort where it goes. But I actually have a CPA that I consult every now and then. But uh, but I still do my books at the end of the year.
Yeah, that was actually my next question. You beat me to the punch, but how do you do your taxes? I mean, do you file yourself? But you
Yeah,
said you have a CPA.
I just do TurboTax. At where I'm at right now, it's really not that complicated yet. But yeah, I've consulted with the CPA, and once the business really gets that big, I'm definitely gonna hire him.
Yeah, cool, man. What kind of advice would you give a reseller that's full time? Now they want to go to the LLC, or the sole proprietor. What would you tell them?
I think a lot of it too is really try to figure out where you want where your end game is going to be at. Where's what your goal is. And then after that, then just reverse engineer and just figure out. I'd say always find a CPA that you can consult with. That's number one. that's the last thing you want to think about as far as the IRS going after you and stuff like that. That's gonna be a pain. So I'd say consult with your CPA on your state because they're able to what are the advantage and the disadvantage of going with sole proprietor or LLC. So each state has different pros and cons. So definitely go through that and always look for mentors and then ask people that are ahead of you. And that's pretty much what I did when I started. I start asking advice from Glenn because he's been doing it for quite some time already. So I've learned a lot from him and ask advice from people that are ahead of you. I think that's the biggest uh, key.
Yeah, man, I think that was very well said. But one thing that I learned a long time ago, people will say, dress for the job that you want. So
100%.
whatever it is that you want in life, I know for me when I was younger, I always hung around people that had families, people that had houses, and then all of a sudden, later on in my life, now I have those things. So it's very important. Find a mentor. There's a lot of cool people on Instagram that I met that I've been able to bounce ideas, and sometimes we have video chats. But yeah, get to know the community and don't look at everybody as competition, but just look at them where we can just grow together.
Yeah, because we're never gonna be in the same place at the same time.
Yeah.
I don't believe in competition. I mean, competition only happens when you're not working hard enough. You know, competition you only get beat when somebody's hustling more than you. So it's your fault that you're letting your competition win.
Yeah, man. I mean, I agree 100% where there's a guy in my area that he used to live in my area, then he moved, but I never looked at him as competition. I was like, how can I learn from this guy? He's ahead of me. What is he
Yeah.
doing to be successful? And one thing that I told another reseller during a podcast interview was we're only competition when we're selling the same item with the same size. It's most of the times it's not apples for apples in reselling.
No, nope. The odds are few. And in worst case scenario, there's thousands of buyers out there. He sells his, you're next.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I like talking to other resellers that find the same thing I sell, what are you pricing yours at? Let's price together. Let's have the leverage over the consumer because
Right.
they want what
Exactly.
we have.
hmm
And that's amazing. So where can people find you on social media?
So I'm mainly on Instagram with the Hustle B on Instagram, and make sure you guys subscribe to the Hustler Hacks YouTube channel. I am a guest there sometimes.
Yeah, you could definitely find the Hustle B, like I said during the intro, as a featured guest. And Hustler Hack Show is every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Pacific, where we do cover a lot of cool finds out there at Ross, Burlington, Power Rankings. Very informative show. And the Hustle B is actually an admin, and it's cool when he's in the chat room, man, and everybody starts donating money because the B is in the building for food.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Last question. What kind of advice would you give yourself in the last 3 to 5 years, whether it's reselling or in your personal life?
I'd say I'd say never be afraid to take uh risk when you see an opportunity. Because like Michael Jordan said, you only miss the shots that you've never taken. So I I wish I would have went in deeper in certain finds that I saw before because now I couldn't find them anymore.
Especially Michael Jordan, one of the best basketball players ever. His work ethic was just crazy. Always wanted
Right.
to get better. Uh, I want to thank you, Hustle B, for being on the show today.
Yes, sir. Anytime, man. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to share some of my story.
Yeah, definitely, man. And also want to thank the audience for tuning in. You can find today's guest on Instagram at the Hustle B, and you can find me on Instagram at eBay Joey. Remember, never forget why you started.